Here we are in the midst of early summer. The water temperature on these lakes are skyrocketing. We've got fish that are still spawning, we've got fish that are post-spawn, bait fish everywhere, a little bit of a shad spawn even. So we're gonna go out with some Lucky Craft baits, hoping to find some on some topwater, some jerk baits, and maybe even try to catch some fish out deep. So we're gonna go ahead and run a bunch of water and see if we can't catch a couple fish. There's one. So here we are, the water temperature is in the mid 60s and we are in the midst of a shad spawn. And now the bass are in kind of all different types of stages. Still have some a little bit pre-spawn, a lot of them are spawning, and then we have some fish that are pulling off the beds. But the shad spawn is very, very critical this time of year. When the water temperature's in the mid 60s, upper 60s, there's a lot of different cover that these shad can go and spawn on. And during the late spring, early summer, the shad spawn is something you really need to capitalize on. As you can tell, we're about mid-noon, so the shad spawn normally happens first thing in the morning, but post-morning, those fish will still be around some of these areas. Shad like to spawn on various amounts of places. One key to a shad spawn that you can find quickly is birds like grebes, herring, things like that, where they're flying in the air and there's a lot of bait fish present, and then you can go to them and a lot of the bass are behind them. Shad like to spawn on a lot of hard cover, like seawalls, flooded bushes, trees, things like that. They even spawn on big grass patches, like healthy grass, like hydrilla and things like that, docks. But one of my favorites is hard bushes and hard trees they get on. A lot of bait just tend to hang out there, and bass like to be in those areas as well. I keep the shad spawn pretty basic first thing in the morning, and one of my favorite ways to catch them is with a Lucky Craft gunfish. This thing spits, walks. I can fish it with a high-speed reel, and I can fish it as fast as I want, and this thing's not gonna roll over and get twisted up. It's a very, very fast bait, and I can also slow it down a little bit if I need to, but during the shad spawn, these fish are really erratic, and the gunfish spits, walks, does whatever it wants. You can make it really tight to where it's just side to side, and I can keep it in one spot, or I can make it move really fast across the water so that they can chase it. My next bait go-to that I'm gonna be using around a shad spawn is gonna be a jerk bait. When there is a shad spawn and you have a lot of bass present and they're feeding heavily, there's gonna be a lot of fish that are gonna be getting hit and injured, and a jerk bait is gonna be a huge, huge way to catch some fish around a shad spawn. The injured bait fish, obviously, in a shad spawn is gonna be the easiest pickings for some of these fish. Also, first thing in the morning, shad spawn goes away. You can still pick off fish that are kind of moving off the bank during the shad spawn as well. So that's kind of my 1-2 punch for the shad spawn in the morning. So when I'm fishing this gunfish, I'm really trying to work it as fast as I can. This thing is gonna be moving a lot of water, and it just looks a lot natural. Now, the gunfish, since it does spit so much, and it is a larger bait, it doesn't necessarily have to be looking like just one bait fish. The way it spits and pushes water, it actually kind of imitates multiple bait fish that are on top of the water, so it can attract a lot of different fish. But like I said, with the shad spawn, it's gonna be a fast and furious type of deal, and you wanna be fishing this thing as quickly as you can to make them react. You gotta make your bait stand out different from the rest, just because during a shad spawn, there's so much bait fish in the area that gunfish is gonna be just pushing so much more water and looking a little bit different so that those fish can key in on it. Another bait that I really like during a shad spawn, and even just when there's a lot of bait present in calmer conditions. Now, the gunfish is pretty much a go-to no matter if it's calm or windy or whatnot, but if you do have a little bit calmer condition and some of these fish are just a little bit more finicky, I go to the Sammy only because the Sammy has that spitting action, but it's not as abrupt and it's not as much as the gunfish. The Sammy is a little bit more subtle. In calm water, it still has some nice action. It spits a little bit, but not too much. It doesn't create as much commotion as the gunfish does. So when those fish are a little bit more finicky, I tend to go to the Sammy. They got it in a lot of different colors and sizes to kind of mimic the bait fish. I'm trying to follow some of these areas where I've caught them before near a shad spawn. Right here, we're next to like a tule, like kind of pencil reed point that a lot of these fish will get on. A lot of bait pushes up here. It's near a spawning base, so some of these fish are gonna be wanting to push out to this point. So I know that there's bait in the area. I don't see them visibly, like coming out of the water or birds, but I know there's bait looking at my electronics around here. So what I like to do is I'm gonna start with a jerkbait because there is some active fish in the area. I think the jerkbait is gonna be the best call right now in these conditions. Now, if it was the morning or evening time, the bait fish will start kind of coming towards the top of the surface and the shad will start spawning again on these things. But when it's midday like this, we got a little bit of wind going, I like to throw that jerkbait and imitate that dying bait fish. And again, as you can tell from my cadence on this jerkbait, I'm using the slender pointer. I'm really trying to fish it fast. You know, the water's in the upper 60s and their metabolism's high right now. So they're doing a lot of feeding and since they are, you know, around a shad spawn and there's a lot of bait, I want that jerkbait to kind of look a little bit different than the rest of the shad in this area. Just like I've talked about in previous videos with throwing a jerkbait is utilize the wind as much as you can, especially around points like this and hard bottom. It creates a current that sets up those fish way easier to feed than when it's calm out. If this spot, if it was calm right here, a lot of these fish wouldn't bite, they just spread out just because they've been filling up in the morning and evening time during the shad spawn. But to get these fish to bite again, you gotta follow the wind and utilize the wind as current so that they can set up and feed again before the evening. There's one. Let's see here. Oh, barely got him. Just like that, little breeze next to an area, you know, that these fish are gonna be coming out from spawning. You got a lot of bait on this point, some hard cover underneath it. Just pick up that slender pointer and go to town. Not bad. There we go.